Hi everybody, it's me Jill and welcome to Jill Informed. Welcome back, scumbags. It is time for New Jersey. Oh my gosh. I don't know why. I think this is going to be a good season. I've got a good feeling about it. Of course, we've got Teresa and Melissa back again, but we also have Margaret back for her second season. I thought Margaret did a stellar job for a rookie last season. I really did. She definitely held her own with Siggy. She may have been Siggy's demise. I don't know. No, Siggy, God bless her. I don't know what happened to her last season because I loved Siggy for season 2. So she kind of went off the rails there. But we do have Dolores back. I'm anxious to see how she does without her sidekick Siggy, you know. Actually, I felt like she was Siggy's sidekick last season. Listen, Dolores suffers no fools, so I think she can hold her own also. Is that it for the old ones? Just those 4? I think so. Am I missing anybody? Because now we also have 2 new girls, and I hate to sound like Shannon Bedore, but I hate getting used to a new girl. Anyway, we have a new girl, Jackie, and a new girl, Jennifer, and we do see them toward the end of this episode. I say this all the time, but jury is still out for me. I definitely like one more than the other, but we'll get into that later. So let's get started. This is the recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 9, Episode 1, Wives and Misdemeanors. Okay, the show opens with Melissa talking to the new girl, Jackie, about her relationship with Teresa. And she said, we've had a very tumultuous past and, Bravo gives us the goods, man. We get to see all the delicious, horrific fights between Melissa and Teresa. And if I were to just sum that up for somebody who's never seen the show, I would say that the core of all of those little arguments boil down to the fact that Teresa has an unhealthy relationship with her own brother. Yeah, it is borderline incestuous to me. Anyway, I'm not saying anything happened. I'm just saying it's too close. It's too close for comfort for me. And Melissa being her brother's wife, I think is getting in the way of that. So she just, Teresa is family first, family, and Melissa is taking her brother away from her. To me, that's their issue in a nutshell. Now, of course, the arguments were all about other things all along the way, but that's kind of the core. Teresa's not really accepting Melissa into the family. So now we have Melissa telling this Jackie that things had then gotten good between them, and they were, I think maybe for the last 2 seasons, definitely last season they were buds. But apparently that is ending. The new issue is that since Joe and Teresa's mother passed away last year, her father has been living with her. And Teresa feels that Joe isn't visiting his dad enough, that he's too busy, and that Melissa is making him too busy. He's got a job, he's got 4 kids. I mean, if you ask me, this is about Teresa just wanting her brother to make her a priority again. Then the screen goes to black and we see 3 months earlier. All right, we are in Teresa's kitchen and she is hustling and bustling and trying to get school lunches and breakfast for the girls. Her dad was in the kitchen with her and she hears something and she's like, oh no, it's Gia. And then you hear a door slam and Teresa jumps to attention when she hears that door and goes racing across the kitchen to grab her lunch, and she's feverishly throwing apple slices into baggies. And I'm sorry, Gia's not a monster. I don't know what's happening here. Gia comes into the room and she's like, good morning. She's 17 now, so she's gotta be a senior. I guess she's a senior. And I don't know. Teresa's acting like her boss just arrived and caught her sleeping on the job. I mean, she's nervous. Then Gia just said, okay, I'm going to school, and she leaves. And then I guess Adriana gets up. Mommy, I'm coming, Adriana. So it was kind of like, I don't know. So she's just trying to meet every need that her daughters have. I don't know if she's trying to make up for the fact that their dad isn't there. Then we see Teresa like brushing their hair and fixing their hair in ponytails, and oh, Melania. Melania, it does not disappoint this season, guys. She's got green tipped hair and she's got long acrylic nails and bright neon colors. Teresa says to the confession cam that she's just letting Melania be Melania. To her credit, she's always let Melania be Melania. And maybe to her fault, she's always let Melania be Melania. Personally, I think like fashion choices and stuff like that is perfectly fine. That's, let them express themselves, you know? I think that's cool. Could she have used some discipline maybe early on? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But Melania will always make good TV. And she's not my kid, so you do you, girl. After all the kids get out of the house and they get on their school buses, the house is very quiet now, and Teresa said, so Dad, what do you want to do today? Do you want to go get our nails done? And he said, I did my nails myself. And I will say this, Teresa's very sweet with her dad, because she's looking at his nails and she goes, oh yeah, you did a good job. Then he brings up the fact that he hasn't heard from Joe in 2 weeks. So I do sort of question my earlier thought that it was really all about Teresa, because maybe her dad is complaining to her that he doesn't see Joe enough. And then he says, if I die, he's gonna cry. Well, yeah, I mean, I think that goes without saying. Whether he visits you enough or not, I think that's probably a given. Now we see Margaret and her Joe. If you're new here, all the men on the show are named Joe. So Margaret's husband, Joe, and Margaret are in bed together in these, how long have they been married? Do you guys know? Because it's all Mr. and Mrs., like pillowcases and sheets, and it just seemed a little too cutesy and over the top for me. And you know, I said I like Margaret. I just could have done without seeing Margaret and Joe in the shower together. Anyway, I don't know if they're setting up for her storyline or not, but all we find out is that her house is still in disarray. Joe hasn't fixed anything up. He's a contractor. But her house is like, everything is in a state of rehab. The one room that they fixed for her birthday party last season is still the way it looked for the birthday party. Also, she talked about wanting plastic surgery. So maybe that's going to be part of the storyline for her. Next, we are revisiting Dolores, and she is at home in her house, and she's on the phone with Frank, her ex-husband, who she still lives with. He's in Florida, and she's showing him through FaceTime all the things that are wrong with the house. See, this crank on the window doesn't work, and look, I can poke my finger right through the wall. Anyway, I guess she's telling him there's a list of things he needs to fix when he gets home. And she doesn't like that every time she turns around, he's off in Florida. And he said, well, you know, when I'm getting older now and when the weather's cold, my bones ache, or I don't know, something. His muscles ache. Then we find out that Frank, who was an attorney, was misappropriating funds and like using client funds to pay for other things, and he got disbarred. I don't know what we're seeing. It's like we're seeing security camera footage of the courtroom where he's like pleading his case and saying he's sorry for what he did or something like that. But anyway, he got disbarred. And Dolores is basically making excuses for it. According to her, you know, nobody lost any money. And yes, he did the wrong thing, but nobody got hurt, nobody lost money, but they punished him for it anyway. Yeah, because it was illegal. Now Dolores calls Frankie Jr. and she's FaceTiming with him. He's away at college and she misses him. She misses, well, doesn't she have a daughter too? Heard nothing about the daughter, but she's very lonely. That's the takeaway from this scene. She's in her big, beautiful house all by herself. Next, we check in with Melissa and Joe Gorga. Melissa's making dinner. The kids have really matured and grown this season. They're calm and they're super helpful. Kidding. Joey is running across the countertop. Yeah. And Antonia is on her phone, ignoring her mother. Same old there. We do find out that they are planning a birthday party for Melissa. She talks about how she hasn't seen Siggy in forever, and that Dolores and Danielle are both going to be at the party, and she hopes that they are just cordial with each other. That might be a little too much to ask. Next, Teresa is at the gym, and she is working out with her trainer because she is entering a bikini fitness competition. What is it with these housewives? We regurgitate all the same storylines. A bikini fitness competition. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm living for it. I just can't wait to see her with that, like, you know, offensively dark bronzer, the bedazzled bikini and the high heels. It is such a trip. One thing I do like, though, is that she said that Joe, her husband, not her brother, although maybe, no, that her husband would never let her do one of these things before. He didn't want her to do it. But that now that he's in jail, she's like, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm doing this for myself. And you know, okay, do it, Teresa. Good for you, girl. Okay, next we are in a doctor's office and we are already checking off the embarrassing procedure scene. Now, I'm not shocked that we're seeing a vaginal rejuvenation on this show, but I didn't think it would be episode 1. And I sure as hell didn't think it was going to be Marge Sr. Yeah. Now we're making grandmothers do this? Anyway, Margaret is there with her mom, and you know, if it is somehow empowering to her, then okay, that's fine. You do you, all good. But I don't know. It's questionable to me. Okay, the next scene is Dolores and Frank Sr. They're riding in a car together, having a conversation. Apparently, they are flipping houses together. And this is something they had done in the past, maybe when they used to be married. And so they're doing it again. I guess they were talking about the house. And he goes, "Don't you trust me?" And she said, she looked at him like, To the confession cam, she said, when they were married, as we know, Frank cheated on her. So she lost all trust in him. But since then, that was many years ago, since then, he has managed to rebuild her trust until now. And he lost it all again. And that was because he didn't tell her he was disbarred. And she said, and I found out in the most public way possible. Okay. This was horrible, but so good. Bravo shows us last year's reunion. Andy asks her, so did Frank recently get disbarred? And she goes, no, he's still practicing. And Andy goes, oh. Okay. She didn't know. That's how she found out. Next, Melissa and Joe Gorga are going over to Margaret and Joe's house for dinner. They end up talking about Danielle, who's getting married. She's having a big destination wedding in the Bahamas, I think. And they're all going and they're looking forward to it, which, oh my God, you guys know they're divorced now. Yeah, so I guess Melissa said, yeah, she's kind of becoming a little bit of a bridezilla. It appears as though Danielle is spending every dime Marty has. So I kind of love that. Because Marty, not that Marty's not a nice man, but if you're that gullible that you are going to ask Danielle Staub to be your wife, I feel like you deserve what you get. Dude, all you had to do, take one weekend before putting a ring on it to marathon all the past episodes of Real Housewives of New Jersey. But I'm sorry, you did not do your due diligence there, buddy. So I kind of think it's funny that she's got like 2 dresses, and yeah, it is. She's going all out there. By the way, Danielle, who is a monster, make no mistake about it, I was praying that she would be a full housewife this season. After her performance last season, I almost feel like she saved the whole season. Well, she and Siggy, because Siggy, you know, was insane. But Danielle brought it, and I think she always brings it. She's the perfect villain. I think she deserves full housewife status. They also talk about Margaret. Margaret had a party like a month ago. I don't know if it was before they filmed or like why this wasn't part of the show. I'm not sure, but she started a new pajama line. I feel like that's a perfect fit for Margaret. So she had a party to launch her pajama line. All the ladies were there, and in fact, one of the new girls, Jackie, was there because I guess she was a friend of Margaret's. While they're having dinner, they're talking more about Danielle and how every time they get together with her, she's trying to bring up the subject of Frank getting disbarred. Now, you know Danielle and Dolores hate each other. It isn't like she's bringing it up because she's got some genuine concern for her friend. No. She wants the dirty deets, and nobody's playing. Margaret said, you know, I just thought I'm not going to go there because that's none of our business. And then Melissa says again that if Danielle and Dolores get in a fight at my birthday party, I'm kicking them both out. Side note, Margaret's housekeeper, Marlene, what a trip. She is rivaling Vicky's manager, Linda. She's, you know, serving the food. Then she goes back in the kitchen. She's dancing. She's wild. She's an older lady, and, you know, she's crazy. And she's crazy and funny. Okay, now Dolores and Teresa are meeting for dinner. Dolores shows up and she said, you know, I was looking at the menu online. I'm just gonna order whatever you order because I know you can't eat most of the things on this menu or maybe anything from this menu, but I'm just gonna order whatever you order because that's what friends do. And Teresa goes, oh, no, you can order whatever you want. Well, because I brought my own. She brought her own food to a restaurant. Oh, and to the confession cam, Dolores said, I know what Teresa's going through because Frank was Mr. New Jersey in 1986 and Mr. Garden State in 2005. And Bravo has the pictures. It's so good. If you guys are into bodybuilding and all that, I'm sorry, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but I don't like it. I don't like that unnatural, muscle-y body shape. I can't stand it. So these are just, he's got these tiny little trunks on, and I mean, look at this, you guys. Each one of his thighs are like bigger than his waist. It's crazy. Side note, Dolores has 2 confession cam looks going, and one of them is really harsh. I'm gonna show you right here. And just so you don't think that I chose this specifically because she looked bad here or that her eyes are crazy, I can't find one where her eyes are not insane. It's like she's channeling Ramona Singer. I don't know what's happening here. Something about the hair extensions and the eye makeup and the eyes bulging. It's such a harsh look. I don't know what's going on there. Now with the other one, I don't know what her eyes look like because the twins are demanding my full attention. I couldn't tell you what her eyes look like. I still don't know. I'm telling you, as a straight woman, I cannot pull my gaze away from them. Oh my God, they are front and center. Okay, so we find out that she is still dating David, so I don't know why she's so lonely, other than she said she only sees him once a week, but still. You own the gym, you're rehabbing houses with Frank. I just feel like I'm not sure why she's so bored. Anyway, she asks Teresa, so, I just have to ask, what are you going to eat when you can after the competition? And Teresa said nachos. And then she said something about Danielle's wedding, because she said, Danielle's wedding too, that's in the Bahamas, and I kind of want to splurge. I want to have cocktails there. So then Teresa said, Danielle brought up about Frank getting disbarred. Oh, Dolores, the look on her face was like, oh, did she? And Dolores said, I didn't not tell you because we're not close enough. It's just that I don't tell people that. That's just not something I talk about. And Teresa goes, yeah, that's why I didn't ever really ask you about it. So then Dolores says to Teresa, you could tell face to fucking shut her mouth. Oh, it was funny. Okay, it is the day of Melissa's birthday party. We check in with everybody getting ready in their houses with their significant others, and the general consensus seems to be that the men are all looking forward to the food. Side note, what is going on with Margaret's eyelashes? That looks more intense than the vaginal rejuvenation. Are they being surgically implanted into her eyelids? I can't figure out what's happening, but there's like a lot of tools and things happening. It looks like some real major surgery there. So now we are at the restaurant Rails, and the party is in this secret back room that you go into what looks like a little wine cellar, and then if you pull on one of the light sconces, it opens a secret door, and there's like a little table that looks like a cave. It looks so cool down there. And it's dark, and that's where the party's gonna be. Everybody's arriving, all kinds of people are coming, and we get to see Jackie for the first time. And Jackie and her husband show up, or at least I think that's her husband, because he does not get a chyron. I don't know what his name is. I don't know if it's her husband. I mean, we're meeting him for the first time, so I think it's weird. So I wasn't sure if that was her husband. And immediately I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't turn out to be a jerk, because he's really cute. And I don't think we have a decent man on this franchise. I mean, not really. Not horrible. Well, I mean, some of them are. Some are in prison. But, they're basically big jamokes who have just like a basic level of misogyny running through them that you kind of cut them some slack, because I don't know why. Because they seem so Neanderthal to me, I guess. That it's expected. I know that sounds terrible, but it is what it is. But this guy doesn't look like that to me. He looks evolved. And so I want him to be. Melissa is kind of introducing Jackie around to her family. Her sisters and her mom are there. And Marge Sr. is there. Melissa said, oh, so Marge Sr. just had vaginal rejuvenation, if you're interested in asking any questions about that. Everybody's like, no, it's vaginal. But it's just such a Melissa thing to say. Over in another part of the room, just in case you forgot the inappropriate brother and sister relationship between Joe and Teresa, he's trying to get her drunk, and she's telling him, I can't drink alcohol because my ass has to be hard and small and tight. Don't tell your brother that. He's really just forcing her to drink, and then she's like, oh, and she takes a tiny little sip. She's like, stop, you're such a bad influence. And to the confession camp, she goes, I can say no to anyone but my brother. I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear that. Okay, so now we also see Jennifer. She's the other new housewife. Dolores also knows her because Dolores used to be a surgical assistant, and she worked with Jennifer's husband, who is a plastic surgeon. So she starts telling all the ladies her story. Jennifer is from Turkey, and she was in the middle of being set up in an arranged marriage, but she did not like the guy that her parents picked out. And when she saw her husband, she thought, oh, I like him, and I could see myself with him. So they went on a chaperone date, and this was funny. Simultaneously, as if they had coordinated this, all the ladies go, a chaperone date? You could see them all lean in together. It was funny. So anyway, as I said, with the two new housewives, I always like reserve judgment until I get to know him better. I could tell you right now, I feel like I'm going to like Jackie. She seems nice and she seems friendly. When she was making small talk, she seemed very interested. I could be wrong, and I really don't have enough to go on, I guess. But Jennifer, I'm getting just a little bit of a different vibe. She might be drama. Just the idea that she came in and she was commanding the attention in the room. She's telling the story. I feel like she might be another bold personality, and so there could be some conflict. But I'll reserve judgment. Those are my first impressions. Okay, now we see Dolores and Melissa talking, and Dolores said, so I heard that Danielle's coming. Is that true? And she said, yeah, she is coming. My hope is that you'll just stay on one side of the room and she'll stay on the other. Okay, this is weird. All the guys are now sitting in that little cave thing. And now, for the first time, we get to see the chyron for Jackie's husband that says Jackie's husband, Evan Goldschneider. Did we just learn his name? How come we didn't get to see that when he first came to the party? Anyway, Danielle and Marty arrive, and Dolores has decided to take the high road and keep her distance. Then we see a conversation with Margaret and Dolores, and they were not the best of friends last season. Margaret had some major issues with Siggy. 2 words, Adolf Hitler. And as you know, Dolores had issues with Danielle, and Danielle and Margaret were friends. So Margaret and Dolores were kind of on the opposite sides of things. But Margaret invited Dolores to her pajama party, and Dolores appreciated that. So Dolores said, you know, I know Danielle's going around talking about Frank being disbarred. And right away Margaret said, yeah, you know, I didn't engage in that because it's none of my business. And she said, I always take the side of what's right, whether it's my friend or not. Meaning that even though Danielle's her friend, she didn't agree with her bringing up Frank being disbarred. Dolores said, I feel the same way. So that's one thing we have in common. Check. And I'm like, no, uncheck that, please. Because you were ride or die with Siggy. Siggy was acting insane. You backed up that insanity every step of the way. You never once said to your friend, you might want to rethink this, or no. So you and Margaret clearly do not have that in common. So she said, I'm having a little get together at this hatchet throwing bar and I'd like to invite you. Margaret said, like actual throwing axes? Bravo! Are you actually trying to get someone from New Jersey killed? Also, who came up with this concept? I know, let's mix alcohol with throwing a sharp axe across the room. I don't see any impending lawsuits there. Great idea. It's like, you know, darts aren't dangerous enough. How can we up our game here? Get people really drunk and let's give them, I don't know, how about chainsaws next? Anyway, she's inviting all the girls, but not Danielle. And Margaret's in. Margaret thinks that sounds fun. And finally, Melissa went somewhere and got really drunk because she was fine in one scene and now she's naked wasted. She says, oh, Teresa thinks she's so strong now. Let's see how strong she is. And she jumps into her arms and like does a back bend and she's sassing at Joe. Yeah, Joe, now you bring the crumbs and I bring in the cake. Then her cake gets wheeled out and it's cool. It's like silver and glittery and it was not purchased by Siggy, so that's already better. And then she makes this big announcement about anybody at my party who wants to throw cake can f***ing throw cake. It's fine with me because, you know, she's so cool. It's weird. And that, my friends, is the end of episode 1. So I hope you are excited for the rest of this season. I hope you are all in with me, and I hope we're gonna have some laughs. All right, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to Jill Informed if you haven't already. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Please leave a comment down below. Starting next week, I am going to read one viewer comment on the air, so I love to hear from you guys. I hope you'll join me next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Time for the next recap of The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Bye-bye.